How important are the narratives that we build? Just on the paper? Well, in our mind. What kind of a narratives? What kind of words? Or rather, what kind of a story are we building in our mind? Is it about achieving that outcome? Is it about running behind those goals? Are we chasing our dream? Or are we running behind someone? What story are we building? Why do we do this? What is the purpose behind all those running around that we do? To impress someone? Or to get that sales deal done? Well, let alone the sales deal. Even he or she is doing it. Why can't I do? Do we run with this thought in our mind? Maybe. I don't deny the fact. But what are we getting end of the day out of all those running around? Well, you got to run. I don't deny the fact. But are we running like that headless chicken? Oh God. I mean, when I think about it, it's quite scary too. But that's what we've been doing most of the times. I have done that. You have also done that. Uh, just pause and just travel back your timeline like we do it on the social media, of course. Just think about those days when you were just running behind few unnecessary things which you felt is an unnecessary thing later part in your life. Did you laugh about it? I have done that several times. Well, I'm just laughing about what I just thought few seconds back. I was running behind so many things. Sometimes I feel, I was pretty clear about what I was doing, what I am planning to do. And then you get influenced. I got influenced. I don't know for what reason. Sometimes we run behind those tag names. I did that too. So here it is. What narratives are we building? Are we running to create a story, or are we running in the name of fear? I feel fear. We've been creating the story of fear in our mind. Why we are doing that? Well, I know the reason for that, and so with you too. Is this fear helping us? They say a little amount, a tiny amount of a fear is pretty good enough, but I would say it's the other way. It's a tiny amount of a confidence that we are running the entire fear element in our mind. It's almost like we are carrying a 100 size of our head in our hand. Isn't it difficult to do that? It's exhaustive. Because many a times we're just fearing about things. How is the outcome going to be? Will I get that money? Will I get that project? What if I don't revert? The other person might, pick up this order. What if I miss it out? The other person might make a huge amount of money. Well, it is required. I don't deny that. But then, what kind of a fear are we operating with? Aren't we sure about what we do, what we are going to do? That's what I say, The narratives play an important role. What words we choose determines or will show a path for us to create an outcome that we want to. But will fear help us? Out of fear, we might achieve few accolades. But tell me again, what is the lifespan of these accolades? I mean, is it in the form of the likes, comments, shares, reshare, tweet, retweet, X, re-X, what do you call it as? or putting that on your WhatsApp status or Messenger status, and some people come and say, hey, wow, nice. And then what? Are we running behind yet another thing with the fear as a story in our mind to achieve that? You gotta run. Yes, you have your bills to pay, like I too have my bills to pay. We gotta run behind things. But let's talk about, many of them keep talking about sustainability. The narratives that we are building in our mind, how sustainable they are. Are these narratives, helping us to get that short term accolades or recognitions or comments or recommends, whatever you call it, yes, it's there all in the social media. In reality, or in the real sense, what is the value of these achievements that we talk about? Because of fear, might be one or two things might work in a way that you expected, but that cannot be a base or a foundation, because for a foundation or a base to be strong, it shouldn't be fear alone. Because when there is fear in the foundation, or at any stage for that matter, the building will do a breakdance, and the rest, it's a story again. Why am I sharing this? It's important, sometimes to pause. There are certain things I've been operating out of fear. And I just realized that the stories or the narratives that I'm building in my mind, it's totally out of fear. It could be even a tiny thing. Like, oh my God, what if my minion, didn't study for the exam and they ask the same question? How is she going to manage that? Oh God, will she forget the answers? Does she remember the tables? Well, I don't know. Does parenthood push us thinking on these lines? Despite we building the narrative in our mind, these numbers are very tiny. We don't really have to push our children behind that. But unconsciously, aren't we pushing ourselves into that black hole? I would say it is only because of fear. On top of our mind, the top layer talks about, like, hey, yeah, we can do this. But beneath those several layers, the unconscious element or whatever you call it as, it is pushing us towards the fear element. So what you sow is what you reap. I mean, what do I call it as? It's a real element. We've been sowing fear in our mind. Losing project, losing name, losing money. All these are important, but at the cost of what is the question? So pause. Think about those elements that you've been fearing about. Pause. Are these fears helping you to build something that you've been aspiring for? Or it is just a castle in the air and it might just break down any time into pieces. Those pieces, despite putting in effort, you cannot put it back into the shape. It might have several more reflections, but are those reflections gonna help you rebuild the castle? Question mark again. It might sound metaphorical, right? But life is all about the metaphors that we lead our life with or live with. Uprooting fear. It doesn't happen just like that, right? It is not like you listen to any of those motivational podcasts or something, motivational line, what you call it as. Wow, what an aha moment. And after some time when you are put into the burning furnace called the reality or the real life situation, fear takes away. One at a time, one word at a time, one story at a time, building that narrative in the mind to uproot fear consciously. Because what is happening is the fear that we are operating out of not only affects us, it affects our outcome, our project, our business, of course, our children too. Somehow unconsciously, we have been instilling fear in their tiny little mind. Not necessarily our own children, it could be anyone. It could be anyone whom you come across in your life. It is just like those, what is that? What do you, cuscuta? The weed plants, what is that? Which sucks out the nutrients of the main plant, or what you call it as a host plant, and it just keeps growing on the main plant, deriving all the benefits. Initially, it comes for the support, but later on, the root gets penetrated into the main plant or the tree, and the tree loses its identity. Let's not let the cuscuta named fear penetrate the roots within our mind, the brain, and lead the way. Just my bit of sharing. Cautious about the story, cautious about the narrative, cautious about the words that you build, because at the end of the day, it is the story that leads our way. What story are you building? You know it best. So whatever you're building, build the best, or just build a simple and a normal story. That's more than enough. See you soon. We'll be back with yet another teeny meeny little bit story from my end. This is Meera from Maya Katha. Namaste. Bye-bye.